every day when that teacher would walk in, somebody would have to say, "Attention on deck," and everybody'd stand up. It was always Gauttro, like full blast, "Attention on deck." He was so locked in.
So on July 4th, they put us on this field. We had a picnic or some bullshit. I remember God walking around with no shirt on, some blinged out watch, dancing around like he owned the place. Like, Jay, do you remember the first time you met God?
I think so. I'm trying to remember if we crossed paths plebe summer or not, but I'm pretty sure it was in plebe year naval leadership class. We had this lieutenant so-and-so guy he was a pretty good instructor, like pretty gregarious, nice guy. And I sat right next to Brant, and every day when that teacher would walk in, somebody would have to say, "Attention on deck," and everybody'd stand up. It was always Gauttro, like full blast, "Attention on deck." He was so locked in. And then I would fall asleep in the middle of class usually, and he would like keep waking me up, and I would get mad, like, "Dude, it's my only nap time."
So I'm almost 100% sure I was in that class with you guys, but I didn't know either one of you well at that point. Was it the one where the chairs got set into a square?
Yeah, like yes. A U. They were like a U.
Yeah, like a U. It's like a U.
I was in that class because I remember two distinct things about that class. I remember God being in the class, and I'll go back to when I first noticed God on campus in a second. But I was in that class, and I remember two things about that class. There may not have been any females in our class because there was constant conversation about whether women were strong enough to carry us out of a fire. That was like the real, and I remember the counterpoint. I kept counterpointing and going, "Have you seen some of the fat asses in our companies that I know for sure the guys couldn't carry me out of a fire? Like, are we 100% sure all the dudes can?" And I remember that, and I remember there was a long part about honor. I remember trying to catch the guy. I thought I was really fucking working some magic. He was like, we were talking about the honor concept, and I said, "Wait, let me give you a hypothetical though, sir. What if you're on winter break and you and your girlfriend stay at a hotel one night, and then the next night her mom asks where you stayed, and you make up a story? Does that break the honor concept?" I thought I was working some serious magic there with that. And he's like, "Yeah, it's still violating it." Yeah, I guess my first time I ever saw God, I think it was on July 4th, and I think that was the second day we were at the Naval Academy. Didn't I-Day happen on July 3rd?
Yeah, it was like second or third. Yeah.
So on July 4th, they put us on this field, hospital, whatever that field place is. We had a picnic or some bullshit. I remember God walking around with no shirt on, some blinged out gold watch, dancing around like he owned the place. And I was like, there's like, 500, 1,000 kids out there or whatever. And I was like, to Christensen, I go, "Who is the And he goes, "Oh, that's God. He's the Napster." And he started telling me about him. He made a very big impact. You think it was Naps helped give you that swagger?
You know what, brother? I mean, probably a little bit of it. I mean, certainly coming in and having gone to Naps and having that experience, like where you didn't feel totally lost. Like, it's like, all right, I got this, because we've kind of gone through already some of the things that we're going to go through with not the hazing, right? But just the hospital corners on your beds and,
right.
Make sure your room's clean, stuff like that. Like, we had already done that. So that I kind of knew, or felt like I knew what to expect. Certainly it was still different and still challenging. And honestly, I actually think that swagger hurt me a little. I mean, I was naturally confident too, but I think that hurt me a little bit going into it, because obviously the upperclassmen didn't want to see that, right? They wanted to break you down. And I just kind of was like, okay, whatever. And just, instead of just being smart and learn how to play the game, and I just didn't get it. I was really slow to figure that out, and that hurt me a lot during that first year at the academy, to the point where, a couple of the second class at the end of plebe year, they're like, "I can't wait to get you next year. Like, I'm coming for you." Right.
Really?
And yeah, I'm going to look to get you out of this school. And
really? I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Like it was pretty, and again, because I kind of threw some stuff back in their face and just didn't, you just got to kind of play the game a little bit, right? Knowing that there's an end game, and you're going to get through it eventually. But I was just so stubborn and just felt like I had it all figured out, which I didn't. And so that definitely hurt me a little bit.
That's interesting, because I figure, you seem like such an adaptable guy, but you probably learned a lot of that if you did have that adversity there in year one, you definitely uh, bounce back from it. I think when I was thinking about naming this podcast, one of the things that I thought was kind of a play on a phrasing is people talk about peaking in high school. So let's go back to high school. I'm curious, I'm sure we've talked about this when I was probably too hammered to remember it. What drove you toward the Naval Academy, but also what were you like in high school? Were you like, I mean, obviously you're a good looking, really in shape guy. And I think the textbook definition of dorks in high school going, that guy peaked in high school. So, like, I would imagine, what were you like and what was high school like for you? And what pointed you toward the Naval Academy?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say too, Chili, since we're doing this, and I mean, obviously you guys are my brothers, and but I want to be open and honest, right? As I've gotten older, I've gotten more spiritual, and I honestly think that God's got a plan, man, and all the things that we've gone through together, and the things that I was able to be a part of, going through the Navy, and being a helicopter pilot and driving ships, and being blessed to be on the aircraft carrier as a CO. I mean, that doesn't happen without him, right? So I want to make sure that I state that first. Looking back now, a lot of the things that happened that we're going to talk about a little bit makes sense to me because I feel like it was part of his plan. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to me. The things that had to fall in line, like the Swiss cheese model, right? We talk about that in safety, Shelty, with flying. And, a lot of those things have to line up, and things just lined up. And I think that was part of his plan. So I would say in high school, Chili, I got to high school. We had moved from Hawaii to Dana Point, California, which if you had to live in two places in the world, those are two places that are not bad. I was pretty blessed that my dad had a job in Hawaii and then moved us to Dana Point. So we got there right before we started high school. I didn't really know anyone, but I figured, I play sports. I should settle in pretty easily. And liked school and was pretty good at it. But there's two things I think that impacted my decision to choose or pursue the Naval Academy. One, almost from the time I walked on board the campus, there was a guy. So this short, stocky dude, he just looked like a bowling ball almost. Thick forearms, had tattoos on his arms. Everyone called him Chief. I didn't know what that meant. I just thought it was his nickname and just one of those things that he got during his lifetime, and people kept using it while he worked there. But he took care of the fields that we played on. And almost from the time I got to school as a freshman, I was 14 years old. He's like, "You're exactly what the Navy's looking for, as a leader." And I was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. I'm like 14 years old and I don't really know much about the Navy other than my uncle served." But he just was very persistent. And as it turns out, he was a retired, the reason they called him Chief was he was a retired Chief Petty Officer in the Navy. And so for some reason, he saw something in me and really honed in on that and kept pushing me and encouraging me to pursue a career in the Navy. The second thing is, so that happened initially right when I got to school. And then we were freshmen in high school and Top Gun came out. And when Top Gun came out and I went to the theater and I saw it in the theater, and I remember this. I mean, literally, there's like girls sitting behind me and girls sitting in front of me. I'm 14 years old and they're oohing and on with Iceman and Maverick and, Goose and Slider. And I'm like, and there's a guy in there named Hollywood, right? And I think it was actually like, I forget which character or which actor was Hollywood, but I just absolutely fell in love with that image, right? Like, holy cow, you can go fly planes and wear these cool white uniforms and like go to these bars and there's just women all over the place and like you get to hang out. I mean, if there was a greater recruiting tool in the history of the United States Navy, I would love someone to tell me what was better than the original Top Gun. I mean, it just was incredible. So I saw that and I was like, I want to do that. And that was it. I just kind of kept it in my mind and then eventually got to the point when I was applying or thinking about college, working with the guidance counselor, and there's a blue and gold officer, in our local area, and contacted him, and that was it. Just started looking at the academy as an option. And actually, interestingly enough, I got interviewed by the local congressman. And when I went to interview, he was like, "Hey, what do you want to do? Army, Navy?" And I was like, "Pretty much Navy. I don't want to go Army. I don't want to go Air Force. I want to go to the Naval Academy." And then a month later, however long it was, I got a letter in the mail that said, "You have been appointed, or you have a nomination for West Point." And I was like, "I don't want that." And so I contacted the Blue and Gold officer and told him, "I don't want to go to West Point. I want to go to the Naval Academy." And so that's when we started to pursue the Naval Academy Preparatory School and looking to secure a spot there, and was able to do that and went there in 1989 and then got the required whatever we needed. I think it was a 5 or it might have been less than that, 2.15 maybe. As long as you got that grade point average, you get an automatic nomination to the academy, and that was it.
Were you a recruited athlete?
I was not. When I got to NAPS, I joined the football team. Played for a coach named Marty Fine. It was awesome. And the guys that we had, our classmates that went to NAPS, man, we had some like studs. They were really good football players. Jason Van Meter and a couple other folks that were just unbelievable. And we went 10-0 that year. I didn't play much. I was a backup, like safety, and did some special teams and whatnot. But it was a blast. And of course, we at NAPS, you have Coast Guard students as well, the guys that are going to go to the Coast Guard Academy and then Naval Academy. And we went 10-0 and actually we went to the Naval Academy and played the Naval Academy JV team and beat them.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
Also,
cool.
it was
who do
legit.
you guys play as NAPS? There are a bunch of other like prep schools. Is there like a prep school league or something?
There's a few, Schulte, and then the Merchant Marine Academy. I think we played them as well, and a couple other, just a lot of the smaller schools, prep schools as well. But those guys were just Wilson Marks, who's now Strike Group Admiral. He was on our team. Greg Hasso. I mean, guys, there are some guys on our team, really good football players that we didn't even start. Were backups and special teams guys. So it was a really impressive group of athletes. So yeah, not recruited, just joined the team and played. And then when we got to the academy, one of my regrets, honestly, is that I didn't pursue that. The academy at the time wasn't that good in football. Plebe year, they were 5-6, and then I think they went 1-10, 3-8, 1-10. And I was like, I'm probably not going to play much anyway. So I don't feel like getting my ass kicked and, not even having a chance to see the.
Did I have it? I may have made this up in my mind, but were you considering 150s at one point? For some reason, I had it in my mind that you were considering 150s, but I don't know when you.
No, I couldn't have played 150s because when we got to the academy, I was probably 185, 190. So there's just no way I could have cut
That's what
that
I
kind of weight.
figured, but I don't know how
Yeah,
that
so
works.
I tried. Yeah, I did tried a couple different things. I tried out for the rowing team initially, and then I was in PE class one day, and the lacrosse coach was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm trying out for rowing." And he's like, "What'd you do in high school?" I was like, "Yeah, football, basketball, baseball." He's like, "You like rowing backwards in a boat?" And I was like, I mean, it's not the best. I mean, but it's okay. I kind of enjoy it. He's like, "What about lacrosse? You ever try it?" I'm like, "No, sir." He's like, "Why don't you come on for the team? Like, just come out and check it out." And so I did. So I actually played JV lacrosse
That's
as a plebe.
awesome. I
Yeah,
did not know
was.
that.
It was. I was getting worked though, because those guys, a lot of those kids, right? They grew up with a stick in their hand at like six,
You
7, 8
never
years
played
old.
it?
Never played it before. No, it
Oh
wasn't a
my,
big thing in California. It's much bigger now, obviously, but not. It wasn't big, and so went out there, and that's actually towards the end of the season when I tore my ACL, and then
oh my
after that,
God.
once I got it repaired, after plebe summer. Or after plebe year, I got it repaired in the summer before our youngster year. And then after that, I just did intramurals. And I actually worked for Doc Murdoch in the weight room, being a weight room assistant and training some of the teams like track and basketball and whatnot.
So
Totally remember you. It must have been when I was doing something for volleyball because we were outside, and I
Yeah.
remember you walking off like that the artificial turf lacrosse field, whatever, with all your gear on. And I knew
Yeah.
you, but you were too far away to talk to me. I'm like, I didn't know he played lacrosse. Damn, that guy's multi-talented.
Yeah.
that's
I
insane
was
to
trying,
just.
Schultze.
Yeah.
It was hard, but I was trying. Yeah.
But
Well,
little did
that's
you know
knowing
that beach volleyball is your true calling. As we found out in
As long
high
as I'm playing,
school,
as long as I was playing with you, brother.
that was some of my best memories. All those
100%.
Damn.
tournaments we played in.
Yeah, me and Schultze in the flight school, Chile, we were playing beach volleyball together, winning some tournaments. It was so fun.
Really? Well, that sounds very believable. So going back to high school a little bit. So you played the big three sports, and then
Yeah.
what were you voted in your high school annual? Were you a big man on campus, or you just? I would assume so. For people who don't know, you can't see you. They didn't know you were born with like a 12 pack or whatever, like abdominals that kind of turn into gills or something. I don't know. You had like
You
you
have
can't
the
really see
magazine
it.
cover you can hold up.
Yeah,
Oh
I'll
yeah,
have to
that's
send
true.
that to Chile. He can post that
Yeah,
on the
we'll
site.
get that. Give us some
All right.
screens. What was it?
That'll be
Men's
the
Fitness?
thumbnail.
Was
It
it
was
Men's Fitness?
it was a magazine called Muscle Media. Bill Phillips, who created Body for Life way back when we were in the 90s, created a magazine called Muscle Media. So I got a chance to get profiled in that as an aviator. I was a lieutenant. I was 28 years old. So we still get a kick out of that. April gets a kick out of that. Like sometimes
Well, you're on
laughing
a
about that.
reality show. You're on a reality show as the face of the freaking Navy.
What that was actually, brother.
So yeah, you were good marketing. I guess
That was the
you might
show
have.
they did.
Go ahead.
They profiled a couple different exercises that like the Navy does, Air Force. It was called War Games, I think it was, and that was right about the same time. And yeah, so I was actually profiling that with one of my couple of my crew from the squadron, and they showed us doing a anti-submarine warfare exercise. So that was fun too.
Yeah, the literal face of the Navy. But that's gotta like that. That makes some sense though. You're literally the face of the Navy. That's pretty high. It's good that we can still give you shit about the
Yeah,
magazine
brother.
posing,
Absolutely.
but literally the Navy said, "Hey, this guy's a good face of the Navy." So the whole point of this was to get ultimately to get to how do you go from now CO of an aircraft carrier. That's again a job that not many people have ever had, and a path that not many people are going to take, frankly. So none of these conversations aren't to really show, hey, anybody can do this. I think anybody can't do this, but I think all the pathways are interesting. But in your high school, where were you voted? You voted how big was your high school class?
Brother, I don't even remember. It was pretty big. I mean, I think I want to say, I don't know. I was gonna say like like it couldn't have been 1,000. It must have been like 700 to 800 maybe. Actually, it's probably closer to 500, 500, 600, somewhere in there. But it's pretty big high school. You know what, brother? I don't even remember what I was voted. It's interesting because you guys popped up on my phone today, and I was driving my 10-year-old daughter somewhere, and it says peaked after college. Right, it popped up on in the car, and she's like, "Daddy, what does that mean? Peaked after college?" And so we had a conversation, we started talking, and she's like, but what does peaked mean? And I mean, and I was like, baby, it just means basically that a lot of people in either high school or college, it's kind of like they do these amazing things and everyone expects them to continue to do those kind of things down the line as a mid 20 to mid 30 to mid 40-year-old. And for some reason they don't. And so you kind of look back on their life and it was like high school or college is kind of where they peaked. And that was the pinnacle of what they were going to accomplish. And she's like, what's pinnacle? And I was like, okay, well, again, it's like, it's the top of what I love having conversations with my 8, 12, 10 and 12-year-old because sometimes they don't understand what I'm saying. I try to explain it just to say, it's not just about what you're doing right now, but you're always pushing yourself to be better and to look for different challenges and opportunities to expand your horizons, right? And do something different, even when it's really uncomfortable. You try to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And so I don't even remember, brother, because honestly, I look back at that time as it was a blip, right? It was just that short 4-year period where at the time it seemed so important, and it is. It's important for your development as a young person. But ultimately, I look back and I'm like, I mean, the things that I thought were important, like, Susie doesn't want to date me or Johnny's not my friend anymore or whatever. It's like, holy cow, I can't believe I stressed about that. Because, quite honestly, my experiences, all my best friends, the people that are my brothers and sisters, I would say, as friends are you guys, people that, came from college. There's a couple guys that I keep in touch with from high school, but really it's all college. And so I don't even remember looking back what I was voted. I'm not quite sure.
That's interesting. So I guess in my mind, I had always assumed, like I said, the first time I ever met you, like you were walking around like you owned Hospital Point or whatever it's called. And I was like, oh my God. And I just, the assumption, that's my projection would be that guy was probably, pretty confident, gregarious. I owned the place guy in high school too, but it sounds like it kind of developed and maybe naps helped add a little spice.
It did. And I'll tell you what, brother, I mean, I think on the surface, I looked the part in high school. I mean, right? I mean, I was not tall, but 5'11" and a half, 6 foot and 4.0 student and played sports and was blessed with good genes. And dude, I doubted myself like everyone else does. I mean, I dealt with a lot of issues of like confidence and, things that, can I do this? Am I good enough? Even going to the academy, right? I remember, getting there, going through NAPS. There were some experiences at NAPS and again, these things all shape us, right? I mean, these things that happened in high school and college, prep school, Naval Academy, helped shape who I am. And I'm sure you guys have examples of the same thing. I remember there was a classmate who's actually a really good friend of mine now, and we weren't close then at NAPS and we weren't close at the academy, but over the years, we've become closer. And I remember we were basically getting ready to do the final parade at NAPS at the prep school in Newport, Rhode Island. And I remember him coming up to me and he's like, hey, Gott. And I was like, yeah, what's up? He's like, hey, just so you know, right? No one really likes you, dude. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, you're just kind of arrogant and whatever. And it's all about you. And no one really likes you. Man, that was for a 19-year-old. Like before there was bullying and before that was a crushing shot from someone who I knew was, popular and a lot of people liked. And
Damn.
So, yeah, but you know what though? The thing is though, again, like God's got a plan, man. Like that was part of my journey. And I had to go through that. I had to go through the academy when I struggled in certain areas. Never the smartest guy, right? More of a grinder. You and Schulte run circles around me when it comes to book work, right? But I would put the work in and also at the academy, when you first get there, you're always looking for the shortcut, right? How do I get to the end as quickly as possible? And that's another thing that as I got older, I really came to appreciate the grind. I mean, I loved working with a team in the Navy, whether it was at the squadron or on the ship, and you're sitting there and you're like, man, you know what? We still want to get to the end state and it's important, but this is the part I love. The day-to-day getting after it with each other. Like you're in the shit together and it's hard, but you're like, you know what? I love you guys, man. And I need you, you need me. Let's go get it. And that was probably way more important to me than the end result. Cause I knew the end result was going to come. I've always felt that like we're going to get there eventually, even if we don't get there the first time. We'll learn from our mistakes and then, try again and get it done. And so that part I really, really enjoyed. And all those things that went through, even though again, people would look at me and go, oh, that guy's, man, he's blessed and he's got everything. I struggled like everyone else, and had to really push and fight to eventually be given the opportunity to fly helicopters and drive ships.
Yeah, that's what I try to stress to my teenager that, most everybody at that age has self doubt and self esteem issues. And frankly, I'm not sure self esteem issues get solved no matter how old you are. There's always a little bit of something somewhere, even from the most confident seeming. But I know you're probably running low on time here, but I want to leave you with one thing, which kind of I was talking to Stephanie earlier. We were talking about somebody else and somebody else's personality, but then I was trying to describe it, and I said, well, it's kind of like God. So when I feel like now there's been a stark change from how your NAPS classmate described you when he said that everybody doesn't like you, because the way Stephanie's only met you a handful of times, but the way I describe you is when you talk to someone, that person you're talking to suddenly becomes the most important person in the world to you, which is a very, very, it makes people feel good. It's actually welcoming. And now, granted, when I first got eyes on you in Hospital Point, I assumed that you're probably the biggest prick in the world, because of judging a book by its cover. But like when you actually talk to people, and maybe that's a skill you learn. Maybe you were arrogant when you're at NAPS, and so maybe that comment helped guide you, because now, you really connect with people. And I think, that's a skill that everybody should aspire to. So
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you.
Yeah. And so listen, good, Jay.
And the same thing, like when you used to wake me up in the middle of class and naval leadership, like at the time I was like, man, what is this guy doing? But looking back on it, it's like, obviously it's disrespectful to be falling asleep in class. And, and you were just doing the right thing. But the cool thing is you weren't a dick about it. Like, hey, come on, man, wake up, let's go. And so you always had that way of like, even when you had to have an uncomfortable conversation with somebody, I never came across going, man, that guy's such a dick. And then obviously we laugh about it all the time now.
I appreciate you, brother. And Chili, hey buddy, I still got about 9 minutes. So if you want me to jump real quick into,
all right.
Yeah. So
all
I'll
right,
just
that's
jump
good.
in. Yeah, I know we're gonna focus and we're gonna focus on each one of us, kind of our story and stuff. And so I'll just kind of jump into, once got commissioned, wanted to fly, went to flight school again, hanging out in Pensacola with a whole bunch of, in Corpus Christi with a whole bunch of buddies was dangerous, right? Because it's like, should I just study my, my flight texts and get ready to fly, or am I going to go out with my bros and hang out? And we had a lot of fun. And so definitely affected, flight school and the grades. Again, part of God's plan, man, I didn't even have the grades to select jets. It basically came down to like, hey, you can put in for P3s or props or helicopters. And so I talked to a guy and I was like, hey, he was a lieutenant instructor. And I said, can you tell me about helicopters? He's like, yeah, I fly the 60 Bravo helicopter, man. It's an incredible aircraft. You use some cool missions, you get to deploy. He's like, and by the way, with the P3s, the props, per diem's going away anyway. They're going to do away with that, which wasn't the case and wasn't true, but that was his story. And so I chose helicopters. And so went to back to Pensacola, went through flight school there, finished flying the helicopters, got winged September 13th, 1990 it was. And so It was a Friday. I'll never forget that, Friday the 13th. And we had a great class, GYs and Hasso and just a bunch of good dudes that I graduated with and got winged with. And then went off to San Diego and then flew 60 Bravos at North Island there. Spent a lot of time out in San Diego flying out of North Island, which was incredible. To be stationed there and to deploy out of there and the cool places we went to. And so I kept doing that. And then it was eventually, as the career went on, met my wife and we moved to DC for a joint job. While we were there, I got selected for command, which, I wasn't sure it was going to happen and it did. And so I was stoked about that. They sent us back to San Diego and the HS-777, which the squadron's now actually in Japan, was in San Diego. So command was the XO there and then the CO. And then from there went to War College. Geo batching, we were trying to get pregnant. We were doing IVF. And so our doctor was in San Diego. So April stayed. I went to Newport. While there, immediately upon reporting for the 1 year of geo batching for the War College, found out that I got picked up for bonus command, which is a blessing. It's very rare. A lot of it has to do with timing. There's a lot of good people that could get picked, but got bonus command. What that means is I got to go back to San Diego after the War College and command the Fleet Replacement Squadron, which was the squadron I first reported to in San Diego when I went to learn how to fly the 60 Bravo. At this point, we had transitioned to the 60 Romeo model. So I got to go back and be the CEO of that squadron where we train all the students to fly. And then while there, I found out that I got picked up for the aviation nuclear pipeline. So my record got looked at. And they said, hey, this guy's had a really good career so far. Seems like he's doing well. We think he can lead at the next level. So we'd like him to go ahead and the aviation nuclear pipeline, go to school for a couple more years, learn about all that nuke stuff, and then go to a carrier as the XO. And then from there, he'll go to what they call deep draft command. So for us, that meant going to command an amphibious transport dock ship, LPD-17, the San Antonio is what I commanded. And then once you get done with that, your name gets thrown back in the hat and they determine who they want to select to command the carrier. Now, their selection rate's pretty good. Every once in a while, someone doesn't get selected, but at that point, they put so much time and money invested in you to get through to that point that the selection rate's pretty good. So I got selected to command a carrier and got assigned to the George Washington. I reported there in June of 21, took command and was there for 31 and a half months, left there in February 24. We were in the shipyard for about 2 years and then brought her out. She had been in the shipyard for about 6.5 years, doing a refuel and complex overhaul. Every carrier goes through it midlife. So we got her out of there.
6.5 years? Good grief.
Yeah, it was longer than normal. Anyone out there that wants to check it out, you can Google George Washington, and RCOH is what we call it. But it was just there, a lot of variables, COVID, material shortfalls, personnel issues in the shipyard. So it just took us longer than it should have. But again, we got through it as a team. Had some suicides. We had 3 and 6 days over one period in April of 22, and that was hard for the team, right? Losing some shipmates, and then trying to continue to grow and learn and push together to get the ship. The carrier, for anyone out there that hasn't researched a carrier or seen a carrier, just Google, carriers in the Navy. It is an incredible vessel. When you look at it, it's 3 football fields long. It's, 20 to 25 stories high, 100,000 tons. It's just an incredible vessel. The people that build those things are just brilliant. And so it was a blessing to be out there and love that. We eventually got her out to sea and did some workups, got her seaworthy. And then I left the ship in February 24. She left in the spring of 24 for San Diego from Norfolk. Got there, turned over to Reagan, who had come over from Japan. And then they did a turnover. And George Washington went to Japan. So she right now is the forward deployed Naval Forces aircraft carrier out of Yokosuka, Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many, I remember at your change of command, how many O6s were on the George Washington under you? And did you know all of them? Did you know all?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they're all my guys, right? And gals, but you have a number of them. The exact number off the top of my head, I don't remember, but they're of equal rank, right? We're all captains. The only difference is that I'm the captain of the ship. So, they're still very obviously professional and polite and yes, sir, no, sir. But the conversations are very cordial, professional. Hey, listen, we're shipmates, man. Like, I need you. I'll give you an example. The reactor officer on board an aircraft carrier is probably the smartest person on board the ship, right? They've been a nuke their whole career.
Yeah.
As a surface warfare officer, and they are in charge of the 2 plants on the ship, the 2 engine rooms. So both where the nuclear reactors are located, and then the auxiliary rooms that support those rooms with the reactors. And they are basically, I charge that individual. Terrence Frost was my first. Joe Misson was my second. Incredibly smart, talented, hardworking. Other than the captain, and sometimes I would even argue, more so than the captain, the hardest working person on the ship because of the scope of your responsibility.
Yeah.
And so that's a captain in the United States Navy is, so I obviously that person's a trusted partner. Like, hey brother, I need you. Like, what's going on right now? And so they'd come in and they'd explain something to me, and I'd be like, okay. And that's why we go through New Power School, because we have to be able to have those conversations and understand what the reactor officer or any one of the sailors is talking about. And so he would come in and brief me, and I'd say, okay, what do you think? And he'd give me his thoughts, and I'd say, okay. Or I'd ask more questions, and then we'd come to a decision, make the decision, and then he would go execute it. So just unbelievably talented. And then really the ship can't function without those individuals.
I think when at the change of command, I think I was counting it. It seemed like there were like, man, maybe I'm mistaken, but it was like in the 20s, the number of O6s on a carrier. I was like, oh my God, I'm not even sure you even know.
But certainly, yeah, there's certainly a few guys that are at that rank as O6s. Look at Master Chiefs, right? A lot of ships, have, a couple Master 2, 3, 4, 5 Master, maybe if even that. In the carrier, we got, we're like 20 deep at least of Master Chiefs, and that are the best of the best at what they do. And so that's one thing you're never short of on the carrier. You have talent. There is a bunch of it running around, and it's just working hard to bring it all together to make sure that we're as efficient, as effective as possible to operate the ship and get the mission done and take care of our sailors, which is the most important part.
When Flying, did you ever have any, my God, I might die moments?
Couple moments. I mean, flying helicopters off the back of a frigate or cruiser or destroyer. A lot of dark nights. A lot of times when you're at the back of the boat, you're 1 point. They've changed the approach in the landing profile in the last few years, even when I was in at the end. But back in the day, you're at 1.2 miles out, and then you start your descent. And sometimes those dark nights, 1.2 miles out, the ship looks like a pin light, basically, right? You can barely see it. You're flying off your instruments, trying to stay on glide slope, and it's a pretty steep descent from you're at 400 feet at 1.2 miles. And I think 1 mile you had to be at like 350, 0.75 at 275, at point 0.5, 200, and then you bring it down from there. So it's a pretty significant descent while you're trying to keep your speed up too. Easy to get into trouble. And there's a couple of nights where it's like, it is dark. And, you know, we got to back each other up because you got two pilots up front. We got to back each other up. But yeah, a couple moments, but overall, the people you fly with, the crews you fly with, you trust each other. I've always argued that other than the NSW, the Naval Special Warfare community, count on each other. I'm not sure if there's a stronger relationship than between a helicopter aircraft commander and his lead air crewman in the back. Because a lot of times, you're looking at the air crewman in the back who's got 2,000, 3,000 hours. You're like, hey, Bubba, he's a second class, first class petty officer, maybe a chief. And you're like, hey, what do you think? What do we do here? And he's like, hey, sir, I think we should do this based on my experiences. A lot of times I went with whatever that person recommended because you trust him so much. So pretty tight.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, it's dangerous stuff. The
Yeah.
one of our other close friends, who I won't name here, and when he was going through helicopter training, he called me and said, one thing I know about helicopters is no one's really sure how they work when he's just going through flight school.
That's good.
And he was kidding, obviously, but yeah, some scary stuff. I'm not going to go into it now, but I think it's interesting to me. I feel like the going back and talking about your spirituality and your faith stuff, like you're much more so than I am. But I feel like aviators, a lot of they're really lean into that. And I think that's possibly because you're do or die stuff on the daily. I was on a submarine. And it was pretty in the mid 90s when nothing was going on, pretty darn safe. So I never had to evaluate, oh my God, is this possibly it for me on a routine basis? So it makes some
Yeah.
sense to me. But no, good stuff. So it's really easy to become an aircraft carrier, CEO. That's all you got to do. I get it. Simple.
Hey, I'll tell you this, brother. And this again, been humbled a lot, man. A lot of scar tissue built up over the years, made a lot of mistakes, obviously shown a lot of grace and mercy to recover from those mistakes and learn from them. It's people like you two, like my friends and the village that has supported me. What happened, what transpired throughout the course of my career does not happen without you guys and others that have supported me and been, I mean, I'll tell you, when we had the suicides on board the ship, there's a lot of people in the media and others that were like, that guy's got to get fired. Right? Because that's what happens in the Navy. Stuff goes sideways
Yeah.
and people are getting fired. One, I had a boss that was like, "Hey, listen, this isn't just a George Washington challenge. This is a Navy challenge, armed forces challenge, and really a societal challenge. So I believe in you, Brent. So I'm going to support you, work with your team, and go figure it out, and let's make it better." And then also, there was a whole bunch of you guys that reached out to say, "Hey, dude, love you." Right? Believe in you. Like you're the right person to be there to navigate the ship through what's going on right now. And so there were days like I don't know whether it was at the squadron as a pilot in a XO and CO or driving ships on San Antonio or Ford, San Antonio and GW. I don't know if I make those days, or get through them. Not that I ever thought of hurting myself. I did not. But, I was really struggling at times. And you guys always were there to pick me up and say, we love you, man. Go get it. Like, go do what you're supposed to do. And so I want to make sure I recognize everyone along the way, friends, family, and sailors that really lifted me up, kept me going when I needed it. And hopefully I was able to give back and, and make that investment in me worth it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, quite the success story and quite the journey from being told you're arrogant and no one likes you. But you know what? It turns out that may have been the best sentence anybody ever said, even if it was untrue at the time. It would give you the right motivation or help point you in the right direction or something. That's wild to
Yeah.
hear because it doesn't make sense to the guy that we know. But okay, well, gentlemen, this was very fun. I think we probably ran past our time, but I got a lot done and it looks good. First time we've ever had no technical difficulties.
Thanks for adjusting the time too. Appreciate it. So
Yeah, no problem.
yeah,
Great talking to you guys.
I got to jump, buddy. I got to go cook some dinner. So I love you guys.
All right.
Night.